Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Football season. We're all locked in on football season. I mean, everybody. I mean, even the big basketball brands. Indiana's playing well. Arkansas is playing well. Carolina was playing well until whatever happened with James Madison the other day. But I bring it up because there are a couple recruiting notes that I want to get to. And I do think there is at least one very important note as it pertains to one of the best players in high school basketball and a player that is coveted by everybody in America. It is a player named Braylon Mullins. Okay, so Braylon Mullins is a 6'5" guard from the state of Indiana, and really just blew up over the summer. Was a 4-star. Now he's a consensus 5-star. And what's interesting about his recruitment, it just blew up. Everybody was interested. But at the same time, he's taken a couple visits, and we were told he was going to cut his list to 5 this week. Had already taken visits to Yukon, had taken a visit to Michigan, North Carolina, and most recently Indiana, his home state school. By the way, for people wondering, no, I'm not wearing an Indiana shirt. Let's establish that right now. I'm wearing a Jerry Tarkanian shirt. Shout out to Tark the Shark. Anyway, had taken visits, was projected to take a visit to Kentucky, and I think everybody thought that in the end, those would be the 5 schools that made his final 5. Well, I bring it up because on Tuesday, right before we started recording, Braylon Mullins officially announced that he has cut his list not to 5, but to 3, as he will choose between Indiana, Yukon, and North Carolina. He has cut out Kentucky. He has cut out Michigan. And oh, by the way, over the last couple of weeks, he has cut out other schools. You know, Duke was in the mix for a minute. Kansas was in the mix for a minute as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about where I ultimately think he'll end up. And first of all, let's talk about some of the schools that he eliminated. The Kentucky thing, you know, I think it's interesting. But if you actually follow college hoops recruiting, and I know if you're listening to this clip or segment or show, you do. Bottom line is, always thought Kentucky was a little bit of a stretch. And I think Kentucky fans even knew that Kentucky was a little bit of a stretch. It was a cool story. He got offered over the summer. Pope is giving him a tour of Rupp Arena, takes him to the upper level next to all the banners and says, I want you to be a Wildcat. Here's your official offer. But when Kentucky took Jasper Johnson a couple weeks ago, the 5-star guard who's originally from Kentucky, there was always this question of, does Braylon Mullins actually fit at Kentucky? Jasper Johnson's kind of an off-the-ball guy. Braylon Mullins is kind of an off-the-ball guy. So it never really made sense. But as long as that October visit to Kentucky was on the books, you always thought they had a shot. Well, Kentucky's been eliminated. I think we can all assume that that visit is off the books again. So Kentucky's gone. Michigan always felt like a dark horse contender. I never really thought they had much of a chance. I get, by the way, Dusty May is from the state of Indiana originally, kind of has that Indiana sensibility even at Michigan, but it never really felt like it was the perfect fit. And if I had to guess, if there was a final 3 coming into today, it would have been these three schools: Yukon, Indiana, and North Carolina. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, from the Carolina perspective, we've talked about it a lot, okay? Carolina, they're going to need guards. And listen, Carolina, it speaks for itself. Blue blood, history, Michael Jordan, Jordan Brand, whatever. It's a great spot. If you want to go there, you should go there. Like, if I could do college all over again, that's a place that I would have loved to go to, even though I turned out all right going to be a Husky, okay? But same time, it also makes sense because they play 5 out, or 4 out at the very least. They shoot a ton of threes, and they're going to need dudes after this season, okay? RJ Davis is a 5th-year senior. RJ Davis has 0 eligibility after this year. Well, he's your starting 2 guard right now. Kind of would make sense to bring in somebody to replace him, especially a guy that many believe to be the best shooting player in all of high school basketball. Ian Jackson, a 5-star guard, very likely could be gone after this season. What does that mean? Probably means, again, that there is space available in the backcourt. We'll see about Elliot Cadeau, whatever. From the Yukon perspective, listen, Yukon is Yukon right now. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant or sarcastic, but Yukon right now is the gold standard and the place that if you have the opportunity to go to, why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that? Okay. Dan Hurley is doing stuff, at an elite level. He's developing pros. He's developing pros, that aren't necessarily the 5-star guys. He's developing guys for the NBA. And bluntly, Braylon Mullins, his talent really kind of fits kind of that Yukon style of play, that Yukon offense that Luke Murray is behind. And you think about what Yukon did well these last 2 years: shoot the ball, 3-point shooting, spacing, ball movement, all those things that Yukon does well. 2 years ago was Jordan Hawkins. This past year it was Cam Spencer. This coming year, maybe Aiden Mahaney, maybe Liam McNeil, whoever it is. And then you look ahead to 25, 26, Braylon Mullins fits nearly perfectly. I also thought it was worth noting. Saw this quote. I apologize. I forget who exactly got this quote. It might have been Adam Zagori or something. But Braylon Mullins was asked about Dan Hurley. He said, Coach Hurley's a great coach. Player development is what we've been talking about. He says I can come on campus for 10 months and reach my ultimate goals. I also love the campus and the coaching staff. I built a good relationship with Coach Murray and Coach Hurley. And so for a kid that, listen, the last couple months was deemed up until the last couple months was deemed a 4-star. If Dan Hurley and Luke Murray are telling you you can be a one and done with what we do, then you got to believe that that is an appealing thing to Braylon Mullins. Now, listen, if you're 2 and done, 3 and done, whatever, but we'll see. But I mean, that's a pretty appealing thing. The Indiana stuff, it goes without saying. He's from Indiana. Listen, we can make fun of how good has Indiana been, whatever. But he's from Indiana. He grew up about an hour away. Again, by the way, this is not an Indiana shirt. Just let the record show. Not favoring one school or the other. But he grew up about an hour away. And it's worth noting, on Monday, his former AAU teammate Trent Sisley committed to Indiana. Trent Sisley and him are really close. Trent Sisley's an Indiana kid. They played on Indiana Elite on the Adidas circuit over the course of the summer. And so you know that those two are in each other's ear. You know, by the way, that the coaching staff is in their ear. Hey, come here, play together. By the way, the coaching staff is going to sell, we'll feature you just the same. It's worth noting in Indiana, there's the possibility that there could be availability in the backcourt next year as well. Cannon Carlisle, I think, could blow up and be a potential one-and-done type player at Indiana. Can criticize Mike Woodson for a lot, but he puts the ball in his playmakers' hands. And if you're good enough, he's turned a couple guys' careers around. Jalen Hood-Schifino was not projected one-and-done until he got to Indiana. Boom, he's gone in a year. Kalel Ware, there were question marks. Boom, first-round pick after 1 year. And so I bring it up because I don't think it's crazy to think that Cannon Carlisle could be a potential one and done. Ball's going to be in Miles Rice's hands. Cannon Carlisle, when I say one and done, by the way, I know he's a sophomore, but you get the point. A one and done at Indiana. So there could be availability there. But Indiana's also selling, come be the home state kid at your home state school with your AAU buddy. And also think it's kind of worth noting. I think this part is worth noting as well. Is that all reports are that the Indiana NIL is as good as anybody's in college basketball. We saw the rumors and the numbers on Umar Ballo, who's now at Indiana. And for a home state kid, I think it's a lot like Jasper Johnson. Kentucky was kind of willing to quote unquote overpay to keep the hometown kid at home. Sure, Indiana is willing to do the same. I'll be honest, as far as an actual pick, I think it's too early. Yukon fans and people hit me up all the time. Torres, what about this kid? What about that kid? It's like, if the kid knew, I think he'd probably have committed by now. But the truth to me is that I think the Yukon pitch is appealing. I think the Indiana pitch, being the hometown kid, is certainly appealing. The Carolina pitch is appealing. If I had to guess, I think it comes down to Indiana and Yukon. And I'm not even going to speculate because I don't think it's fair to the kid to do that. But this is a 5-star talent. Whenever he commits, we will talk about it.